Committee had an executive session, however, there were no votes taken in executive session. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes, the open session, regular meeting on November 20th.
Motion made to approve.
Motion made and second. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We had an executive session.
Motion made to approve with the appropriate section of around state law.
Second. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have correspondence from Local 920 AFT, contract negotiations. You want to comment on that, Mr. Coho?
Yes, so we've received an engagement letter from the teachers union reminding us that their contract expires August 30th, 2025. So we will commence negotiations with them beginning in January. We've already established some meeting dates with the hope of arriving at a successor agreement, certainly before the end of school.
Thank you. Item number 6, we have no public comments. Item number 7, consent agenda. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion made to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second. Any questions on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8, superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Pilata, members of the committee. Before I move on to the item under the superintendent's report, just an acknowledgement of some of the retirements that you approved in the consent agenda. Gail Wolf, resource teacher at Birchwood Middle School, who's been employed with us since 1986. She has always served as a resource teacher at Birchwood Middle School for her entire tenure. Caroline Gates, art teacher at Ritchie Middle School, employed since 2017. Also, Debbie Nassy, administrative assistant to the assistant superintendent. She started in 1993 as a yard monitor, served as a school clerk, a school secretary, and her current role as an administrative assistant to the assistant superintendent. I know Mrs. Seitzinger would like to also acknowledge her.
Thank you, Superintendent Gall. I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart it's been a wonderful 8 years working with Mrs. Nassy, and she's really become a friend. But she's just an exceptional assistant, and I'm sure I drive her crazy sometimes, but I cannot thank her enough for her years of service to the district and our students, our faculty. It's going to be hard to replace, but
yes,
we'll do our best.
She would stay with us, but she just became a grandmother, so congratulations to her. Also, one other item, happy birthday to Miss Van Avery, our Director of Student Services. Happy birthday, Miss Van Avery. Okay, so the next item, the only item on the superintendent's report is a presentation by our assistant superintendent, Mrs. Seitzinger, and our director of student services, Ms. Van Avery, regarding our 2023-2024 RICAS results. I will say, just to introduce or give an overview of their presentation, some of the information that you'll see tonight, you'll notice that the trends in North Providence mirrored pretty much the trends and the data points around the state. I had a conversation with the commissioner on Friday regarding the North Providence data. Lots of things to celebrate, which Ms. Van Avery and Ms. Seitzinger will talk about. I think some of the things that we were pleased with, as I mentioned earlier to the committee, we received the highest possible amount of points in staff attendance. So that's an improvement there. Suspension rates are down, and student attendance also is up. We had 6 schools, I believe it is, that were in ATSI, intensive support and intervention for special education, and 5 of them moved out of that category. So kudos to the schools who were able to get out of intensive support for our special needs students. We also had 3 of our elementary schools move up in their overall categorization in the STAR rating system. So those are just some of the highlights. We know that the high school did extremely well and surpassed the state average, and in total, in terms of proficiency, is significantly above the state average in SAT mathematics. So anytime we have a gain in mathematics, as we know, that's the most challenging issue to show a bump. And so the high school showed a significant bump in mathematics. And as we look at data, obviously, we know that post-pandemic, we are under the operating assumption that it's going to take 3 to 5 years to recover from the learning loss that occurred during the pandemic. We are implementing new curriculum, which typically would take around 3 years, which we're at that point. So we should begin to see some results that are more consistent on a sustained basis, and we try not to look at student achievement results in a one-year snapshot. Instead, we try to look at trends over a 3-year period, 5-year period. We also want to look at state trends. Are we an anomaly that's different from the state one way or the other? And certainly what the commissioner told me last week was that our results surpass and outperform all of the other urban ring districts, which are similar communities. So with that being said, Mr. Seitzinger and Ms. Van.
Thank you so much, Mr. Goho. Chairman Pilata, members of our school committee, good evening, everyone. So just to kind of piggyback what Superintendent Goho mentioned, we do have a lot to celebrate, and we take this very seriously. And with our curriculum teams, our principals, our school improvement teams, our district team, we really dive into our data, analyze it, and want to look at what we can do to address the needs of our district. But as we said, we're moving in a positive direction overall, and there's always room for growth and improvement. That's what we do every day. But we're super excited about our accountability data and the improvements there, and the areas that Superintendent Goho mentioned as far as teacher and student absenteeism, suspensions, great improvements there. So I wanted to mention a few things before I go into the data, which there's some more connections to our district strategic plan, school improvement plan. All the goals that we have in that are definitely connected to the data that you're going to see here too. Some of the goals in our strategic plan relate to reducing chronic absenteeism for our students, which we have done. And if we look at the data from now, this year to last year in terms of student chronic absenteeism, we're already ahead of the game by 1.4% roughly. So we're making gains. I know the school leaders, the school teams have worked extremely hard on that and do a lot of great things and celebrations, recognitions for the students. And I really want to applaud our teachers because I think they've made a really concerted effort to really think about and reflect on how important it is to be there every day for kids, in front of kids in classes every day. So we really appreciate that, and it's been a team effort. And I also want to thank Matt as our director of HR and that team there, because they've really worked hard with our schools to address those concerns. Other things that you'll see are obviously ELA, math, science achievement data that is directly related to our school, to our district goals of improving those achievement levels and decreasing gaps in our most at-risk students, who mainly are MLL students, our special needs students, which we're going to address. And things that we're addressing to work on instruction and high quality instruction are things like our learning walks and debrief meetings with faculty and staff, and really thinking about what's best for our students in terms of instructional practices. And we think that those things are really starting to make a difference. It's the third year of learning walks K-12 in our district, and it really aligns to what our commissioner basically stated to us at our data meeting. All of the tenets that she mentioned were things like attendance, high quality learning and teaching, post-secondary success, addressing equity gaps for our multilingual learners and our differently abled students. And we are doing all of those things. So it was good to be validated on those points, but know that we are still working hard in those areas. All right, so as we go through the slides, I'm not going to go to every single slide. You have the slides. You can certainly look at the subgroup data, which is very detailed. But I'm gonna do some just real highlights of our data. Another important piece of data information is that all of our schools have high participation rates, which is very, very important when you look at state testing. So definitely above 90%, 5%, all of our schools, whatever test it was. And so that's really a credit again to our schools, our teams, our teachers, certainly families, and just that respect for the assessment and giving us that data so that we can improve. So the first slide shows RICAS. Our district data for ELA was 32% meeting or exceeding proficiency, and then the math was 22% meeting and exceeding. And then the next chart, this shows, and again, you can look at it in more detail, showing you over time the results of the RICAS data for our district and for the schools individually, and just highlighting the reds, the greens, the neutrals in those areas as well. And then this shows by grade level the comparison to last year on some of the differences in the data. But again, these are different cohorts of students, so it's hard to say, can't really compare different groups of students to different groups of students, but it's something important to look at in terms of our growth. And then these are links, I'm not going to go into them, but these are links that I've had and I've added to, this is the North Providence State Assessment data over the past few years. This goes into every assessment, RICAS, SAT, PSAT, the DLM for our differently abled students, all sorts of data that you can look at, and that's over the past several years, 3 or more years. So you can click onto that. And then the other thing, it shows the growth. And just in terms of our growth, and especially looking at our accountability data, it really matches, aligns to what we see here. It's pretty steady. I would say it's about the same. There's not a huge difference, but it's showing, increments of growth on all levels. And then the last one was just that you can, the cohort slide. That's the last one you can look at. It would be showing the kids moving up from grade to grade. So when they were in 3rd grade, what were they in 4th grade? How did they, what was the outcome, and so forth. Okay. I'm going to let Ms. Van Avery address this slide. This is our special needs population, our subgroups. We're going to go into that and how we're addressing them.
Yeah, so I wish our scores were better than what they are, to be honest with you. Unfortunately, that reflects that. What it doesn't reflect is all of the hard work that our administrative teams in every one of our buildings, our teachers and our students are doing to improve not only BICAS, but DLM, SAT, PSAT, and our science scores as well. One of the things, as Superintendent Goho just said, last year we stood up here and we had a sense of urgency to get 4 of our schools out of that ATSI status for special education. And we are pleased to say that all of those schools that were in that status last year are no longer in that status. So we are super pleased that we are not headed down the path of being a comprehensive school. So again, kudos to all of our buildings and our school staff who really work hard every day to make improvements, specifically in growth and achievement. And then just really quick, I promise to be brief, is all of the amazing work that our special education staff are doing across the district, from meeting with the Department of Education, really understanding statewide accommodations, making sure our IEPs are reflective of what are unique accommodations and all of the things that we have access to that we have not tapped into in the past. But also the work that we continue to do, Louise and I together, that is collaborative in nature and our teamwork, and making sure when we talk about all students that we are inclusive of all students, including our differently abled subgroups as well as our other subgroups. Both Louise and I and Donna Hanley sit on the differently abled subgroup for the Department of Education, and they will be rolling out a new blueprint. We're excited to see that work that we've been working on for the last 2 years and how it will impact all of the districts across the state. And then just briefly, last thing, we continue to work on co-teaching, inclusive practices, differentiated instruction, all of the things that we know we need to do in our schools every day. And I promise the last thing, which is exciting this year, is we are doing a comprehensive needs assessment related to MTSS, which is the multi-tiered system of supports, so that we are being, again, inclusive of all students and making sure that we are not headed down a path of special ed for all students, that we're truly meeting the needs of all learners, starting in Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 before special education. So again, I wish our scores were a little bit better, but this doesn't reflect all the hard work that our schools and our staff are doing.
Cindy, just a quick question. The test results also include all those students that we brought back from out-of-district placements.
Yes, sir. And actually, our district scores also include the out-of-district placements as well. So they're always as part of the district and then individual schools and then as well. So they're always part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to add to that too. And as Ms. Van Avery said, it's really a team effort. And as we all know, it's going to take some time. But I want everyone to know that our differently abled students, our MLO students, receive the same core instruction as all of our students. They're our students. There's no, in terms of how we look at them and how we teach them. It's really important to understand that we might have specialized materials in some ways for interventions and supports, and we'll mention some of those things later on. But I think it's important to understand that our philosophy and our work, the way that we work with our students and teach our students, is to include them and to make sure that they're exposed to the core curriculum, just like everybody else. And we're really working with our teachers more on differentiating strategies, scaffolding strategies, and things that make a difference for those students in the classroom. I'm going to go right to the access data for our multilingual learner students. And this is really something to celebrate because if you look at, there's the wording in, at the bottom, and then there's another link there to look at all the access scores by school. But it's really important to note that, you know, we've had an increase in our MLO student enrollment, which is a positive thing. And you look at the numbers there from 308 in 2022 to 398 in 23, and now it's at 416. It's probably a little less right now. Our participation rate is always higher than the state. We're looking at the average scale score going from 317 to 327. We've seen a steady growth in proficiency in the blue, which is that bridging technical language. So it's a little bit different to look at this type of data because it's not like RICAS where it's proficient, not proficient, but it's entering, emerging, developing, expanding, bridging, and reaching. So it's a little bit different for our multilingual learners. So it's kind of a little more complex to look at. But the good news is that we've seen an increase in that bridging area from 1.6 to 4% and then to 4.6% in the last 3 years. And so the number of students reaching that English proficiency and exiting the MLO program has increased from 11 students in 2022 to 19, and last year in 23, that was 19 students in 23, and up to 29 students who are exiting in 2024. So that's quite significant. And we, again, feel that we're on the right trend. We're trending upward. And again, this is, I'm not going to go through this, but this is our different subgroups for race and ethnicity. You can look at those. There's math, ELA, gender for ELA and math, homeless and ELA and math. And then the science. I'm going to go through this very briefly. So moving along to science, slight increase from the previous year. It was 29%, it's now 31%. But of significant note is that the increase at the high school level. So they were the highest. And so again, we're implementing our high quality science curriculum, K-8, Amplify Science. And we hope to continue to see the improvement as we keep going forward. NPHS, it really went back to the score they had 2 years ago, which is interesting, and that was our most improved, as I said. I think a significant note for this piece is that we're working on internal assessments in science, which mirror the state assessment. We're also doing practice items and really making sure that our curriculum is aligned to the test, but also making sure it's a little bit tricky in science because they get tested in grades 5, 8, and 11. So sometimes if you're taking a test as a 5th grader, it might be a concept from 2nd grade that you haven't seen in a while. So we're making sure as a science district committee that all of that's coming about, the kind of spiraling and making sure students have access to that and have exposure to that. But I want to thank my science content leaders from the middle school, the high school, science farm chair, Mike Cicerone is not here this evening, but they've really done a great job collaborating together and making sure that we're all on the same page in terms of alignment, you know, K to 12. And the content leaders have also worked with our 5th grade teachers and elementary teachers. So this just shows you the science results across the years. Again, some positives there, and then increase overall as a district. And again, these are just subgroups, so I don't want to take too much time, but just going through the different subgroups of science as well. ELL, race, ethnicity, and then we have the SAT scores. So in math, we have 29.4%, which is an increase of 7.4% from the previous year. And then the reading and writing was 48.4%. And then the next slide shows the SATs, which is math was 32.9%, which was very similar to the previous year, which was 33%. And then there was an increase in the reading and writing, 63.1%. Last year it was 57%, so that's very positive. So that just shows you over the years how they've improved and how they've moved along. So I'm just going to highlight a few things here. There's a lot of information. High schools worked really intensely on improving their scores in math, and Maria Bronco, the department chair, is a tremendous leader. So they've implemented ALEX, which is an intervention we're using aligned to our curriculum for grades 9 and 10 students, and at-risk students in grade 11. They've also worked with the grade 10 students on algebra standards. You can see the other things that they've implemented, like Khan Academy. And as a matter of fact, we just signed up to it's the Khan Academy AI. That is another intervention and support for students that we are going to be using, that RIDE is piloting, if you will. And also, there's a new adaptive SAT assessment, and we're hoping that will engage students more and while they're testing and increase student achievement. So just some other items there. They're continuing with their math response to intervention, so they're intervening using their STAR, which is their universal screening assessment 3 times a year. They're responding to their data, and they're supporting their students, and also increasing their parent communication around that. And then this is ELA. You know that we've done the right to read training across the last several years in our district. We're going to be continuing more of that at the high school next year, but learning walks, as I said, for ELA are also continuing. At the high school, K to 12, they're continuing. They're doing interventions using the study sync curriculum they have, and also there's a vocabulary program and literacy skills using that program that's there, sat there. And then also there's focused reading intervention in grades 9 and 10. So another, I think, significant piece is that 9 to 11 grades, the MLL support specialist is pushing into the ELA classes. So again, we're really working on inclusionary practices across the district, K to 12, both especially for our special needs and our MLL students. And then for science, again, I mentioned the interim assessments they're working on, analyzing the data. All of our district teams now have analyzed our data, so ELA, math, science, and we've looked at our strengths and needs, and the schools also do that at their school level. So looking at where do we see a challenge, and looking at our curriculum and seeing, do we have to realign something? Do we have to change something? Do we have to make sure as we move forward to the next assessment? And then again, collaboration on the interim assessments with the middle school and the elementary. And there is nothing vetted for the high school science as of this point in terms of high quality curriculum, just biology at this point. So we're still waiting for RIDE to kind of let us know what they'd like us to do on that front. So in terms of the district, I mentioned of these already. We're analyzing, we're looking at the released items, we're reviewing that for science, math, and ELA, and we're continuing to align and coordinate professional learning for principals and teachers all year. And then again, the right to read's continuing this year. I think the learning walks have been really significant in terms of cultural change in this district. I think it's really, at first it was very scary for teachers. I think they felt that it was something that was negative because it wasn't really understood. And now they understand that it's really a reflective best practice, and we need to do that as educators, really as human beings every day. We should be reflecting. So it's really been a shift in our culture, and the conversations we're having this year compared to the first year in terms of instructional dialogue are really, really excellent. So I want to thank our coaches. I want to thank our teachers, our principals. It's been a tremendous professional learning experience, and it will continue to happen. I mentioned our curriculum. Some things have changed in our curriculum in terms of the Foundations Phonics program. When I first came to the district, we didn't have a basic phonics program for students at the elementary level, K to 2. Now that's being used as an intervention. So those are the kinds of things that you evaluate as you go along with curriculum. We also, I mentioned the coaching we have, continued professional development. We did add iReady diagnostic assessment. I might have mentioned this before. In K to 8, that has been a significant improvement in attaining data and helping our students reduce those achievement gaps. Many districts are using iReady. It's highly correlated to success on RICAS. So we're really excited. For us, it was just about timing when we could really fit it in and make sure it aligned to our needs. But it also aligns to the MTSS that Ms. Van Avery mentioned, the work that we're doing to align to interventions and the intervention blocks that we're trying to really build in consistently in our schools. We also have an MTSS coordinator. I want to mention that too. As you know, in addition to school level coordinators, that's significant, and she's working on that inventory that Ms. Van Avery mentioned too with our colleagues. We still have our elementary special ed coordinators. It's their second year, and we also added in general education mentors this year, besides our induction coaches. So that means that every school has someone who can answer questions, be there for them, be there as whether a new teacher, could be a second year teacher, to help out. And then I mentioned these interventions already, and a couple more that are at both the elementary and middle school level. We're doing academies at the elementary level using Title I funds to address need. And we have enrichment at the middle school, and we do summer support at the high school. We still have our MLF coordinator, of course, and these are some things that she has available and made available for our ML learners. And this will be the second year that we've done a district multicultural night, which has been, that was just outstanding last year. So I welcome you when we have that. We'll definitely send that out to everyone. It was great to see families come together, share their culture, enjoy other, families' cultures. It was just a fabulous event. And then in special education, we have special ed mentors. As Ms. Van Avery and I have said, we align everything we do together. It's not separate. We're together. This is about all kids. And then we have our family engagement committee working on further partnering with our families. And a survey went out recently that asked families what are they interested in, what would they like to see more of, how would maybe workshops or whatever they're interested in, so that we can engage them in what we're doing as a district. And then we have a continued ruler social emotional learning program, and you met our SEL coordinator another time. Ms. DiLorenzo presented to you last year. So that's been going along really well, and we still have our therapy dogs in the schools every week. So it's been extremely supportive and just wonderful. And I just wanted to say, again, to reiterate that we're on the right path, and we're definitely trending in the right direction. But I want to thank all of you for your support, and thank everyone in the district for their hard work and their commitment. Our principals, our teachers, our staff, our parents, our families, but especially our students who work hard every day to learn. And that's it. Thank you. We tried to be as efficient as possible.
Thank you. Any members have any questions? Mrs. Picard?
Thank you, Louise and Cindy. I noticed, and I have all the data. I would like to see something in a future agenda that reviews the chronic absenteeism data, because we're still trending up. I want to kudos to Stephen Only School, 13.8% last year, finalized a huge reduction at the elementary level. And I know we all know that if we're not attacking it in elementary, it gets worse as they get to middle and high, which are way above what there should be at 28.3 for the high school. Birchwood and Ritchie at 25 to 28%. So significant, and it looks like they're trending in the exact same direction based on the leaderboard. That's as of today. So with the SEL coordinator, we know that the chronic absenteeism stems from a level of mental health needs, which I have mentioned a few times, as well as if students are in school, they're not learning. So if we're going to get growth or achievement, which is two of the areas that we saw as a focus area for the high school, not only with LEP, but students with disabilities, as well as overall. We only had 35% of our students at the high school reach for post-secondary success with the Commissioner Seal, achieve both ELA and math. Now that's way less than half. That's not something that gives us the warm and fuzzies. But again, if you have 28% of them not in school, it's going to be very difficult to catch up, even with all of the interventions you have prepared. So I'd love to have a conversation about the chronic absenteeism in relation to the mental health, to see what we're doing in those avenues and what impacts that they've seen, return on that investment, so that we can sort of think differently. I noticed in the school improvement plans last year when we saw them, we had to remind everybody about the chronic absenteeism. We didn't see that in there. I was glad that they did put them in. But I do think that if we don't attack this, we're not going to see growth, and we're going to keep going back and forth. Which is why you've got some schools out at TSI, we've got some schools back. So we're playing that balancing act, and I think those are for us, those are going to be the top two based on the data that you have presented. So thank you for sharing, and I'd love to see more about how we're going to attack those areas since we definitely see a trending going up.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Very comprehensive report. Thank you for that. Next item on the agenda, we have no school committee reports. We have no old business. Item number 11, new business. Mr. Goho.
Thank you. I would request approval by the committee of the final tentative agreement with Local 2435 AFT, which is our custodial union. We've reached an agreement with them, 3-year contract, which would begin when this one expires, August 30th, and I'm requesting approval by the committee according to the terms submitted in your packet.
Motion made to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B.
Thank you. As you know, we discussed in executive session last month the tentative agreement that we have with 1033, which is now up for approval. I am requesting approval of that agreement. We're really thrilled, actually, about this contract. As Ms. Van Avery and Mr. Hicks will fill in the gaps a little bit with a little bit of a high-level overview. This contract, we think, will better allow us to meet the needs of our students. The Local 1033 is a vital component to our educational and social emotional goals for our students. This union comprises school secretaries, central office secretaries, but primarily classroom teacher assistants and our special needs teacher assistants, kindergarten teacher assistants as well. And one of the things that we have seen post-COVID, which is very common across the state, is the job market for these positions has changed dramatically. When we would advertise for a paraprofessional position in the past, we would have ample applicants for positions. Over the last few years, we have struggled significantly to attract and retain applicants for these positions, putting us in a position to have to hire outside agencies to perform the duties and responsibilities that are required often by IEP or by law or by contract for our neediest students. So we think this contract puts us in a better position to attract and retain paraprofessionals, not have to rely on an outside company at a far more expensive rate. We're able to hire qualified candidates, oftentimes our own residents for these positions. So I'm just going to ask Ms. Van Avery to briefly talk about the positive impact that we feel this contract will have on our neediest students, all students as well, K, 1, 2, pre-K, and then Mr. Hicks from a human resources perspective in terms of retaining and attracting candidates for these positions. Ms. Van Avery.
All right, thank you. So, many of you know, I actually started out as a paraprofessional 27 years ago at this point, and it's been an amazing opportunity for me to learn and grow as a professional. And so when I came here, and I often meet and speak to our paraprofessionals, I'm always talking about that story for me and the growth that I took to become a director. And so one of the things that, I watched many of our paraprofessionals leave over the last couple of years and unable to fill those positions. I'm often asking them why they're leaving. And they're leaving not because they don't love kids. They're not leaving because of that. They're leaving because of our pay and the perks that some of the other districts would do. And so I'm grateful for this opportunity and this contract because I think it reflects on the hard work that they do every day for our students, specifically our students who are differently abled, not only our paraprofessionals, but our behavior specialists. So they are often tasked with doing some of the most challenging work in our district, from personal care assistance such as toileting and feeding and mobility supports. They are sometimes the first call that our schools make when there's a crisis. Or there's a safety team, and they are the first defense for de-escalation with many of our students. They are essential. And so not only are they essential as members of the building, but they are essential members of an IEP and legal and obligations that we have as a district to make sure we have this level of support for our students. And again, just, really quickly, they are contributors to our students' growth, not only academically, but as we stated earlier, social emotionally, and really staying focused on learning and being in school. And so without our paraprofessionals and behavior specialists, we'd have a lot more students in out-of-district placements. And so, again, I just want to say I'm appreciative of the work that we've all done and all of you have done to consider this contract.
Thank you. Real quick, yes, I echo everything that Director Van Avery had just said. The paraprofessionals, behavior specialists, and our secretaries, they serve a significant purpose in our district. Of course, we're all here for the purpose of our students and providing them a safe space. And if we don't have the paraprofessionals or behavior specialists to be there to support those students in a time of need, then we are failing our students. And that's not where I don't want to work for a place where we're not serving our purpose appropriately, and these students need these support services. So I'm so excited, as Superintendent Coho is as well. He said that we have come to an agreement with Local 1033 to find ourselves, to strategically place us in a better position to attract and to retain all of these vital positions. So over the last 4 years that I've been in this position, I've seen the struggles of recruiting and retaining. We have individuals that can see the growth in their career, and they can see the pensions upon retirement. But right now, people are trying to focus on living in the moment. And if they don't have a competitive hourly rate, they can't live in the moment right now and survive. So that's why they're looking at other districts, even outside of districts. I had someone that had left us and went to work at a private company, Lowe's. Sorry, it's sad to see them go because we know how great and how big of an asset they are. And they're so supportive to our students. So this here allows us to be competitive. It allows us to attract the appropriate skilled personnel that we need. The savings alone can be substantial. Last year, we had spent over $1 million in costs just for substitute and agency staff personnel, that if we had just been in a competitive position, we could have saved money in advance. So we've also recognized that our vacation and recesses, they're unpaid for new personnel in that union. And that's also a barrier for them because they're looking at those periods of time where they're not going to have any income or a shortage in their paycheck for food on their table. So what we've done is we've allowed new staff to accrue vacation time earlier rather than having to wait a full year. So we haven't increased the cap, but we're just allowing them to accrue it sooner. So that way they're not going into unpaid status during recesses. So I truly believe that this proposal is going to put us in a place where we're going to have the support we need and our students are going to be in a safe learning environment.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from members of the committee?
Just so we have an understanding, both these contracts place us pretty much ahead with the average.
Yeah, so
statewide.
Yeah, so in consultation with Attorney Scungio's office, who has access to districts all across the state, Mr. Hicks, his office worked very closely with Ben's office, and the data that we compiled puts us competitively with our neighboring districts and right in the middle at the state average for these types of positions in terms of an hourly rate.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion made.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, last item for me. I am very happy to inform the public, as the school committee is aware, that the Rhode Island Department of Ed recently approved our JROTC program as an official CTE approved pathway, and I am asking for approval of the enclosed JROTC Air Force MOA renewal.
Motion to approve.
Any questions? Approximately how many students are in that program?
Currently, we are at about, it fluctuates, but around 30, 35.
And this is only the second year of the program.
Correct.
Very good. Okay, there is a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item D. I'll address item D. It's a resignation letter from Mr. Pollock, which I will read for the record. It says, Dear Chairman Pilato, it is with mixed emotions that I submit my resignation from the North Providence School Committee, effective January 3rd, 2025. As you are aware, I was recently elected to the North Providence Town Council. I want to express my deepest gratitude to my fellow committee members, Superintendent Goho, school administrators, teachers, and the entire North Providence community for the opportunity to serve. It has been an honor to work alongside such dedicated and passionate individuals who are committed to providing the best possible education for the children of our great town. I am proud of the work we have accomplished together, and I am confident that the school committee will continue to thrive and make decisions that benefit our students and community. Thank you again for the opportunity to serve. I wish the school committee and the North Providence School Department all the best in the future. Sincerely, Chuck F. Pollock, Jr. Regarding Mr. Pollock's resignation, I just have some personal comments. I want to thank Mr. Pollock for his dedication and commitment in public service. Mr. Pollock was fully engaged serving his constituents. But more importantly, he always supported the students. And we also thank him for initiating and providing the school district with all the contact information to implement the JROTC program. The program has been very successful. And as Mr. Goho referred to, there's already 30 students in that program. It's only in its second year. So we thank Mr. Pollock for his service on the school committee. I'm sure he will do a good job on the town council, and we wish him well. Additionally, I'd also like to thank Mr. Andriozzi for his public service, serving on the school committee, I believe, for approximately 12 years. The committee appreciates Mr. Andriozzi's contribution to the school district, and we also wish Mr. Andriozzi well. If Mr. Pollock, I'll refer to you first for any comments before I refer to the committee.
You know, I think, Mr. Chairman, my resignation letter says it all. You know, when I first ran for this position, I made a commitment to myself and the community that I would be actively engaged, and I'm proud to say nobody can ever question that. I was very actively engaged, and I believe everybody should be. I thank my fellow committee members, the school administrators, the teachers, the custodians, and most importantly, the people of North Providence for entrusting me and continue to support me as I've run for office. It is bittersweet, but I look forward to taking on a new role and just continuing to support our great town. And thank you all.
Thank you. Any other committee members have any comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to
Mr. Corsini.
good luck, and it's been a pleasure working with you. Your dedication to the students is greatly appreciated. Good luck, Chuck.
Thank you. Mr. De Silva.
We represented the same district and we worked as a team, and I know they'll do the same on the council. Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you. Okay, so we need a motion to accept Mr. Pollock's resignation.
Moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Best of luck to you, Mr. Pollock. Item number 12 is approval of bills.
Motion made to approve as presented.
Questions?
Comment? Thank you very much. Well organized as usual.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 13, use of property.
Motion made to approve as presented.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 14, request to address the committee. We have none. We have no pending business. Before I entertain a motion to adjourn, I just want to wish everyone happy, safe holiday season. Motion to adjourn, accept the motion.
Second.